Good morning, everyone. I'll try and do this fairly quickly, and I'll try and keep to the time. I'll just reset my timer. I'm not a club secretary. I haven't been a club secretary for quite some time, and I know a lot of you are club secretaries, so you probably know a lot more than me. This session's intended to be an opportunity for everyone to share experiences, guide new secretaries, let off steam if you want to, and hopefully take away some new information. No breakout groups or exercises, and club secretaries are vital for the smooth running of clubs, and they often stay in post for very many years. So we're going to cover the key tasks and skills and the constitutions. There's no avoiding them. Now, all clubs are bound by the standard RGB&I club constitution. It's what you sign up to when your club is formed. Now, you can have standing orders. We have some in the district. I don't want to dwell on them. If you can avoid them, please do. You can't remove things with standing orders. You can only add things. So if you fancy taking things out of the standard club constitution, you're stuck. I'm going to do this fairly quickly. Right. General data protection regulations and club privacy notice must be available to view and download on the public pages of a club's website. The template should be available from the district data protection officer. Quite an interesting thing on this one recently is that you're probably all aware that RGB&I are now using Amazon Web Services. Now, Amazon Web Services can be located anywhere in the world. So it's very important, actually, that we still stick in this country currently with the EU rules, which mean that protection has to be in place around the world. Okay, insurance is quite key. Many external events will require a copy of our confirmation of insurance. You need to be aware of the dispute management procedures. But good communication and treating people properly and fairly are key to avoiding disputes. Most disputes usually land on my desk as the first point. I don't like getting them. Okay, insurance. I'm not going to dwell much on insurance. It hasn't changed from last year. There'll be a presentation available on the RGB&I website, and the new insurance documents will be available from the start of the Rotary year, covering all the limits. These were last year's limits. They may have gone up slightly this next year, but the documents will tell you. Now, firework displays are an interesting one. There's no cover for firework displays and bonfires, so it's well worth talking to the insurers just to see if you need to do anything. Many organised firework displays are covered by the pyrotechnic company's insurance, but we have had incidents in the past within Rotary where a stray firework has landed on a spectator and it hasn't come from the Rotary display. So you need to talk to them. You have to handle displays very quickly. and you must never admit liability. Now, you must create a risk assessment and event plan for all club events for them to be covered by insurance. It's not an onerous task. They're only expecting it from a Rotary perspective. We're not supposed to be experts in risk assessment, but it's no good saying if you're holding something at a venue that the venue are covered for everything. That isn't the case, and without an event plan and a Rotary risk assessment, you won't be covered by insurance. Okay, Rotary View, this wonderful system that doesn't actually work at the moment. A phased rollout has apparently been planned, and all administration will eventually be done in Rotary View, rather than the current system, where it's a mixture of DMS and the template system. The template system will still continue, but purely as a means of producing and managing websites, and will continue to have a mandatory annual fee to Foundation. Now, don't use Rotary View at the moment, as you will probably create duplicates of information. Only use DMS and the template system until we get a working version of Rotary View. Okay, administration. You need to have a My Rotary account. If no account, what's preventing signing up? You need to prepare and brief for meetings and correspondence. Now, the treasurer pays the bills, but the secretary is required to ensure, and it falls on your shoulders, that the RGB&I half-yearly invoices and the district levy are paid on time. You have to make sure that your annual accounts are prepared and audited ahead of the SGM, and your budget is prepared in time for presentation to usually your club council and then the club at your AGM. Okay. Please try and set up your club officers for the next Rotary year, as well as the current one, if you can. I know how difficult it is to get future officers in clubs. Club voting delegate to RGB&I annual business meeting. You have to do that in the template, and district council representatives, you have to set those up in the template. What you mustn't do is go into My Rotary and start doing changes on the RI system, because I'm not absolutely convinced at the moment that they'll ever feed through to our systems. We have still some serious synchronization problems. Clubs are entering information, they're not doing anything wrong. Some very seasoned DMS people are entering new members, but sadly, I'm seeing synchronization errors when I check, and I'm clearing them on a daily basis. Doesn't mean to say there are synchronization errors every day, but I'm looking at it every day. We have a problem at the moment with corporate members. We only have, I think it's 3 corporate members in our district, but one of our clubs has got 1 corporate member entered twice with slightly different addresses, and it's totally messing up the whole reporting for corporate members. We'll get that fixed eventually. The current district governor's working on that one. Okay, the only way to add or remove a member on the databases is via DMS at the moment. And there's no automatic notification to district officers. So if you want other clubs and people to know about membership changes, please tell me, and I'll happily put it in my newsletter. I sometimes get some of those things wrong. but I do my best. Okay, this is just the screens for district council voting reps and things. It comes from a few years ago now, but you have to do these in the template. All the non-standard roles are done in the template. All the roles that are common to us in RGB&I and RI are done on DMS. Now, district council voting representatives, nobody in a club has any voting rights at district council, not even your president, unless they've been nominated by your clubs as district voting reps, and there's something put in the system so I can see it and check it before meetings. I won't go through it. Now, it is important that you check your membership lists. You've got to do it before the 1st of July and the 1st of January. Otherwise, half-yearly invoices issued by Rotary in GB&I and the annual amount paid once a year for the district subscription on the 1st of July won't be correct, and you can't get it corrected later. Occasionally, I send out messages to all Rotarians in the district, and the two issues I receive from people are usually, I'm no longer a member of Rotary. I left a year ago, and my name isn't correct. So, yeah, it's an ongoing problem. Okay, communication, pretty vital. Email addresses, are they correct? Just leave that one on for a second and then I'll go back to the next one. Okay. Email's probably the main form of communication within clubs, but you can also use the template system to send messages to the members of your club. DMS and the template are fully GDPR compliant. And if the address isn't correct, the mail doesn't get through. Now, email addresses are members' IDs, often for logging into websites and databases. Many have changed but have not been updated. Some clubs are showing deceased and/or resigned members and not showing new members. So these things are important. The problem with email is you can send out emails to the members of your club. You're supposed to use the BCC field, but if you don't, and there's a super event, and the member of your club sends it to one of their friends saying, hey, do you want to go to this? Then you've caused a breach in terms of GDPR, because that means that confidential information, which are club members' email addresses, have now been shared outside of Rotary. So communications. I know not all clubs pass information on, all that exciting stuff that I send you. And I know deadlines can be a problem. And DMS messages, I'm not sure if they're not being received or whether they're just going into people's spam folders. I've got no control over that if they go into people's spam folders, so please check. And try and whitelist things from DMS if you can. I'm doing well on time. Various procedures exist. Now, some clubs, when they're setting up new members, are using out-of-date proposal forms and sending out 10-day letters. The current proposal form is GDPR compliant. Honorary members see the Constitution and bylaws. Associate members do not have access to DMS. They're not permitted. Resignation should be sent in writing to the president or secretary, and they should be removed from the database using DMS. termination of membership's a thorny subject. I'm not really going to go into it too much at the moment. And if somebody passes away, please remove them from the database immediately using DMS. Now, for many years, we've been told to do a process for transferring members from one club to another. That can actually only be done by a district officer. So email those requests to me and I'll see that they're actioned. You can transfer a member to another district and basically you terminate that member's membership. You make a note of the leaving member's RI number and you pass that RI membership number onto the new club in another district. And then they add the member in from the day after the date used in termination. Records, what can I say about this? Manage club members' data. GDPR and RIBI policy statement is important. You're probably responsible for maintaining club and council minutes and other club documents. Manage retention of records. Generally 3 to 7 years is applicable, but if it's regarding a minor, if they've suffered an accident at some club event, then you have to keep those details for 3 years after they reach the age of majority, because it's at that point they can take legal action. Okay, meetings, area meetings, district council, and this one, district training assembly. I think area meetings are open to all, not just presidents and secretaries. Now, district council is the decision-making body, and it should meet 3 times a year. Now, there is a little issue that maybe some of you are not aware of, that district councils only exist within RGB and I. Rotary internationally don't know anything about district councils. All their decision making is done at annual conference, which is why the rules for annual conferences given in the regulations don't really fit with the way that
2 kilos of cherries for €5.
Sorry? Somebody said something? Sorry. So district council is the decision-making body for us. And we have them 3 times a year. November to receive the financial statements for the previous year. Now, the major challenge for me is that must be a quorate meeting. RGB and I won't let us approve our district annual accounts except at a quorate district council meeting, which is why I'll be making a big push up until November to ensure that district council representatives are registered. February, we do the district budget, and then in the summer is our final district council meeting, which is at the end of year review. Now, obviously, apart from our meeting in November, I can deal with non-quorate district council meetings by sending out information to the clubs and the people who were entitled to a vote. But I can't do that for the first district council meeting. And many of you will know our last district council meeting wasn't quorate. It clashed with Wales's major religion of rugby, and obviously half term has an impact over 2 weekends because people often play the weekend before. and they don't return until the weekend after. So we were hit a number of fronts that time, which is unfortunate. We could get hit again, who knows? Okay. Effective and timely administration, knowledge of constitutions and policies, and knowledge of procedures. Now, this is my attempt at a timetable, bearing in mind I'm not a club secretary at the moment, so you may have slightly different versions of this. But club assembly before the 30th of June each year, and invite your AG to attend. Ensure that your club's membership records are maintained correctly, as the details held are used to produce half-yearly invoices from RGB&I and your liability for annual district subscriptions. Ensure that both your club ABM voting delegates and district council voting representatives are set up correctly for the current Rotary year. Annual general meeting by April each year. President reviews year to date, propose subscriptions for next Rotary year, appoint your service leads, and election of any honorary members. And then a special general meeting before the 31st of December each year, election of club officers, audited accounts. Current president, always seems a bit strange, doesn't it, approves the previous year's audited accounts. Now, club accounts can be audited by a single qualified accountant or 2 club members. And please notify the district treasurer that your accounts have been approved. The district treasurer doesn't need to see your accounts, but she does need to know that they've been approved. That's the right button. So, officially, you're the secretary and the club president is the boss. But unofficially, we all know who runs the club. That's the end of my presentation. I'll now stop my screen sharing and see if there are any questions or things we want to talk about.
Well, Steve, there's no questions in the question and answer section. Does anybody want to put their electronic hands up and ask a question?
I'll say one thing now, that clubs are essentially autonomous. They are free largely to make their own decisions, but you aren't free to not send me a compliance statement, and you aren't free not to pay your district fees. If you choose not to do that, there are procedures in place where your club will have its membership of Rotary removed. We've never had to do that, and I hope we never do. But please don't delay sending me your compliance statements, because I have to keep chasing them right through the Rotary year. It's such a waste of time. And do ensure that all your fees and subscriptions are up to date. That's it.
And I think yesterday there was a message too from some of the key officers, like Maggie Hughes for public image and Brian Pippin for youth chairs. So please, secretaries, can you also the membership chair for Peter Hamilton, so they can contact the person in your Rotary Club who is dealing with those categories. It would be really helpful if you could do that. So if you didn't attend yesterday, there was a plea from the key officers for you to update the DMS with the people who are responsible for those things in your club. I think we've got a couple of questions. We'll quickly take them. Stephen Rogers, could you unmute yourself, Stephen, please? Cardiff Bay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
On the question of corporate membership, who do we put on as a new member?
Corporate members are really up to each individual club. I know down in West Wales, I think Mary's Club, is it? They have a corporate member where they share that membership between two people, and that works well for them. Bridgend are the other club with corporate members. They've just come together, I think, to do projects. So it's really up to the individual clubs exactly how they manage corporate membership and how they want to do it, and what they want to charge for it. It's a very flexible thing, Steve. One thing I had intended to mention is that I try to minimize the information I send out to clubs to just my district secretary's newsletter. Please send me things to go in it a few days before, because it takes me a little while to knit it all together. But I will send out all sorts of information in my newsletter about activities that are happening, events that are being planned for clubs, and anything else you want me to spread the word on. I don't want to send things out after the event on events that largely clubs will only get people attending from their local area. That's not really what I'm here to do. But I will try and minimize wherever I can the amount of information I send out, because I don't want to overload clubs. Sometimes, fortunately, RGB and I command me to send things out instantly to clubs, and I have no control over those, but they are getting a little bit more sensible currently, I hope, on how they've been managing that, because it was information overload at one point recently.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm just going to go quickly back to Steve from Cardiff Bay. How we've done the corporate member is you put one key person as the corporate member, and then that person can elect somebody else to attend if he's not, or he or she is not able to. So that's the way that we do it. So just for your information. Okay, I don't think
Thank you.
Great. Now then, I don't think we've got any more questions for Steve. So thank you very much, Steve. That was very comprehensive. And if anybody's got any questions to Steve, please ask him.
David Curtis has got his hand up.
Okay, quickly, David, because we are running slightly over time now.
It was mentioned regarding executive secretary. We've got an executive secretary in our club, which sounds more important than the secretary. But as far as I'm aware, the only thing that he's basically doing is removing members from the database when they leave club.
So are you asking that as a question? Is that the job of the executive secretary?
What is the purpose of an executive secretary with a secretary?
Yeah, I'll answer that one very quickly. It's somebody else who can come in and take over the administration should the secretary become ill or incapacitated for any period of time. And some clubs actually share the load between communicating stuff out to the members, between the secretary and the executive secretary. But it can be useful in some clubs. Some clubs choose not to do it.
Well, the only thing we do is obviously if someone leaves the club, the executive secretary, as far as he's aware, that's his duty to remove the member. I don't do that. He does that.
The only thing I haven't mentioned is that I am aware that one club is closing this coming at the end of this Rotary year. There's some procedures they have to go through. But can you please all bear in mind that you cannot refuse a transfer from an existing Rotarian into your club, because some of those hopefully will continue their Rotary journey by joining other local clubs, but they cannot have their membership turned down on transfer.
Okay, thank you, Steve. That was very comprehensive. And as I said, If there's any further questions, then please email Steve directly.